I think most of us have a very specific, almost cinematic idea of what happens in a hospital maternity ward.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
know the scene, right?
Yeah.
It's all soft focus, gentle lighting, flowers everywhere, relatives cooing behind the glass.
A baby wrapped up like a burrito.
Exactly. Just sleeping peacefully until it goes home. It's the whole happily ever after montage.
And that's a lovely image. It really is. I mean, that's certainly what the parents are feeling
For
emotionally.
sure.
But if you actually strip away all that sentiment and you look at real operations of the ward,
Yeah.
that image is just completely wrong.
And that is exactly what we are doing today. We're looking at a stack of documents you've brought in. These are what official medical procedural manuals for newborn care.
That's right.
And honestly, this doesn't look like a nursery. It reads more like the pre-flight checklist for a spacecraft launch.
That is the best analogy for it. You have to realize for 9 months, a fetus is essentially on, well, autopilot. The mother's body is the life support system. It's doing the breathing, the eating, the waste filtration, all of it.
Temperature regulation.
Everything. The second that cord is cut, the baby has to pilot its own biology for the very first time.
And looking at these protocols, it seems like the medical staff isn't just, babysitting. They're monitoring a critical system switchover.
Precisely. The duties at the newborn ward, which is the title of the document we're analyzing, is really a surveillance grid.
A surveillance grid.
We are looking for the systems that fail during that launch sequence. Because if a biological system is going to fail, it usually happens right at the start.
So our mission today is to decode this manual. We're going to find out why nurses prick the heel, why they count breaths like they're diffusing a bomb.
And why something as subtle as a musty smell is treated as a medical emergency.
It's about seeing the invisible threats before they become visible disasters.
Exactly.
Okay, let's start with the dashboard. The vitals. I was reading through the normal range slide in your source material, and if I'm honest, these numbers look terrifying.
Okay, they do.
If I were to a doctor with these stats, they'd call an ambulance.
Oh, you'd be in the ICU immediately.
Let's start with the pulse. The document lists the normal range as 120 to 160 beats per minute. 160. That's a full-on sprint for an adult.
It is, but for a newborn, that is resting.
Wow.
You have to understand the scale of growth happening here. Their metabolism is a furnace running at maximum capacity.
Okay.
They have to double their body weight in a matter of months. That requires a heart rate that drives oxygen furiously fast to every single cell.
And I guess the breathing matches that intensity. The doc says 35 to 50 breaths per minute. I mean, that sounds like hyperventilation.
It's rapid and shallow, their lungs are tiny, and they're still learning the mechanics of inflating those little air sacs. But then look at the blood pressure. That's where it gets really interesting.
I saw that. It just bottoms out. 70 over 40, 80 over 50. That seems dangerously low for a system running that hot.
It's a plumbing issue, really. Their vascular system, the pipes, essentially, is tiny and incredibly elastic.
Right.
They don't have the resistance in the veins that adults do to build up high pressure, so you have this high-revving engine pumping into a low-pressure system.
Okay, so a high-speed engine.
Mm.
Then we get to temperature regulation.
Mm.
The standard is 36.8 to 37.5 Celsius.
Mm.
Pretty standard.
Right.
But the protocol for babies under 2 kilograms is totally different. It just says incubator required.
Mm.
Why is the weight the deciding factor there?
This is pure physics. It comes down to the surface area to volume ratio.
Okay.
A tiny baby has a lot of skin relative to their body mass, and critically, they lack the brown fat deposits needed to generate their own heat.
So they just can't keep warm.
They can't. If you leave a 1.8 kilo baby in an open crib, they don't just get cold, their metabolic processes actually shut down.
Shut down.
Yes. They burn all their glucose, just trying to stay warm, which means they stop growing and their blood sugar crashes. So the incubator isn't just a warm bed, it's an external battery for their body heat. It frees up their energy to survive.
Let's move from the internal engine to the external hall maintenance.
Yeah.
The hygiene protocols.
Right.
I expected this to be pretty standard, wipe, diaper, done. But the instructions here are oddly specific about water. Bathing under running water. It explicitly warns against standing water.
Well, think about infection control. In a hospital setting, standing water is a petri dish, and you're dealing with a newborn who has an open healing wound.
The umbilical stump.
Exactly. You don't want a baby soaking in a tub that might contain, a mix of their own bacteria and whatever was on their skin. Running water is mechanical washing. It flushes pathogens away from the wound.
Speaking of the scump, The care instructions list octinoxip for cleaning and a strict 48-hour deadline for removing the clip.
Oh.
Why the rush on the clip?
It's a race to dry it out. That umbilical vessel is a direct highway into the baby's central blood supply.
Wow.
Octinoxept is a powerful antiseptic to guard the gate, but the real goal is desiccation. You want that tissue to die and dry up as fast as possible. The plastic clip keeps it moist, so removing it at 48 hours exposes it to air. A dry stump is a safe stump.
There's also a note on positioning here that feels like a contradiction to what most parents are told. It says, side and back position after feeding. I thought back is best was the absolute rule.
For sleep, back is best is the rule for sleep to prevent decides.
Right.
But immediately after feeding, you have a gravity problem. The valve between a newborn's stomach and their throat, the cardiac sphincter, it's weak.
Oh, okay.
If they lie flat on their back with a full stomach, milk can easily come up and go straight down into the lungs. That's aspiration.
So the side positioning is just a temporary safety measure.
Exactly. It uses gravity to keep the airway clear until the stomach settles. It's a carefully balanced risk assessment the nurses are making every single time.
Let's talk about the output, the diaper situation. The documents get surprisingly detailed about, well, poop. The source material calls it meconium.
The tar.
It sounds like an industrial sealant.
It looks like one too. Meconium is fascinating because it's not really food waste. It's the material that accumulates in the intestines while the baby is in the womb. Lanugo hairs, skin cells, amniotic fluid,
And it's thick, black, sticky.
and sterile.
The timeline here is strict. First 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
Why is the clock ticking on this?
It's the first systems check of the digestive plumbing. If meconium doesn't pass in 48 hours, we have to ask some serious questions. Is there a blockage? Is the intestine connected properly?
I see.
Cystic fibrosis, for example, can present with a blockage called meconium luis.
And then the nurses are watching for the color change. The document notes it goes from black to yellow by the end of the week.
Right, and that yellow color is bile processing fat. It tells us the liver is working and the baby is actually digesting milk, not just swallowing it. It's a visual status bar for the whole digestive system.
Which brings us to the input, feeding. The document mentions a target, 150 milliliters per kilogram of body weight. But before that, they're running something called a swallow study.
Because you can't just assume a newborn knows how to eat. Eating is actually the most complex acrobatic feat a newborn performs.
Really, more than breathing.
Absolutely. Breathing is automatic. Eating requires them to suck, swallow, and breathe in a coordinated rhythm without choking.
Right.
If they mess up that rhythm, they inhale fluid into their lungs. Nurses aren't just watching the baby eat, they're conducting a neurological exam. Is the suck strong? Is the swallow rhythmic?
And if they're failing,
Huh?
or just hungry, the document lists crying under communication.
It's this one specific line that just stopped me.
I think I know which one.
Reasons for crying: hunger, thirst, pain, and lack of love or feeling safety.
That is not poetic license, that is physiology.
It's just startling to see love listed as a medical requirement right next to hydration.
It's there because a baby that doesn't feel safe releases cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone.
In high doses, it actively inhibits growth hormones and suppresses the immune system. So when the manual says, satisfy their needs and establish a routine, it's not just about being nice, it's about biochemistry.
So comforting a baby is literally lowering their toxicity levels.
Exactly. The nurse holding a crying baby is performing a medical intervention to lower cortisol so the metabolic pathways can function. Love is a biological requirement for growth.
That is a wild way to frame it. Okay, let's go deeper. We've done the visible stuff. Now we're going to the molecular level. Segment 3, the heel prick.
The metabolic screen. This is arguably the most important 10 seconds of the baby's first week.
The logistics are weirdly specific. It has to be 48 to 72 hours after birth. And the document puts this in bold. The newborn have to consume at least 60 milliliters of breast milk. Otherwise, it must be repeated. Why does eating matter for a genetic blood test?
Because we aren't looking for the disease itself, we're looking for the failure to process food. These are metabolic disorders. If the baby hasn't eaten protein or sugar yet, the toxic byproducts haven't had a chance to build up in the blood.
So you're stress testing the engine to see if it smokes.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
If you test a fasting baby, you get a false negative, and a false negative here is catastrophic.
Let's look at what we're screening for. The source lists 4 main villains. The big one is phenylketonuria, or PKU.
PKU is the classic silent killer,
The text says it's a gene mutation where the body lacks the enzyme to break down phenylalanine.
which is an amino acid found in almost all protein. Meat, dairy, nuts, even breast milk.
So if they can't break it down, what happens?
It accumulates in the blood and it crosses the blood-brain barrier. It acts as a neurotoxin. It literally poisons the developing brain.
The symptoms listed here are haunting. Early on, it's just vomiting. But then the text mentions a musty smell of sweat and urine.
That musty smell, some describe it as mouse-like, that is the smell of the chemical buildup. Before modern screening, that smell was often the first clue parents had that something was deeply wrong.
And by then is the damage done. The list of late symptoms is heavy. Intellectual disability, seizures, eczema.
By the time you smell it, significant, irreversible brain damage has often occurred. But, and this is the miracle of the heel prick if we catch it at 48 hours,
The treatment is listed as a poor protein diet.
we put them on a restricted diet immediately. No meat, no normal dairy. They drink a special medical formula. Your document mentions Malupa PKU that provides protein without the phenylalanine.
And the result?
A completely normal life. They go to school, they have careers, they have families. You take a child who would have been severely disabled, and just by changing what they eat based on one drop of blood, you save their brain.
That's incredible. The difference between a tragedy and a normal life is just information.
That's the power of screening.
The next one is galactosemia, 1 in 44,000. This seems to be the sugar version of PKU.
Correct. The body can't handle galactose, which is a simple sugar that makes up half of the lactose molecule.
Lactose, so milk.
All milk, breast milk included. For these babies, mother's milk is effectively poison.
Wow. The symptoms here are different, though. Liver failure, cataracts, sepsis, cataracts in a newborn.
Yes, the sugar accumulates in the lens of the eye and clouds it. If you see cataracts in a newborn, you check for this immediately. But it primarily attacks the liver.
And the treatment is just as blunt. Eliminate lactose.
Immediate switch to soy formula or an elemental formula. You stop the input, the liver recovers, the eyes clear up. Again, it's a binary outcome. Catch it, they live. Miss it, they die or suffer severe organ failure.
Though we have hypothyroidism, the thyroid is offline.
We call this floppy baby syndrome.
That matches the symptoms listed. Hypotonia, which is low muscle tone, sluggish sucking, constipation, enlarged tongue.
The thyroid hormone is the fuel for brain development and metabolism. Without it, the whole system just runs too slow. The brain doesn't wire itself correctly.
But the fix seems incredibly simple compared to the diet restrictions. Just hormone replacement.
Levothyroxine. 1 pill a day. That's it. You replace the missing hormone, and the baby develops perfectly normally. It's one of the most cost-effective medical interventions in history.
And the last one on the metabolic list, biotinidase deficiency. The body can't recycle vitamin H.
Biotin. It's the same story if you miss it. Seizures, hearing loss, hair loss, alopecia is mentioned in your text.
And if you catch it,
Biotin supplement. Healthy kid.
amazing how binary these are. Caught early,
Emma!
healthy,
Yeah.
missed, disaster.
That's why the logistics you mentioned, warming the heel to ensure good blood flow, the precise timing, are so stressful for the nurses. You cannot mess up that sample. You don't get a second chance to catch it early.
Let's move to something visible. Jaundice. The document mentions Sebi serum bilirubin. And we've all seen the yellow babies. It's pretty common, isn't it?
It is common, but it's not always benign. Bilirubin is a yellow pigment from breaking down old red blood cells. Usually the liver clears it, but newborn livers are slow to wake up.
The danger zones in the text are sharp. Normal is up to 200 micromoles per liter. Over 300, we need lights. But over 400, it says, need to have blood exchange.
Over 400, the bilirubin becomes toxic. It can cross into the brain and cause a condition called kernicterus, which causes permanent brain damage similar to cerebral palsy.
And blood exchange is literally what it sounds like.
Exactly. Taking the baby's blood out and replacing it with donor blood to wash out the toxin. We want to avoid that at all costs.
So before we get to 400, we use the tanning bed, phototherapy, blue UV light. How does a light fix a chemical problem in the blood?
It's photooxidation. The blue light waves penetrate the skin and physically change the shape of the bilirubin molecule.
Oh, wow.
It turns it into a water-soluble form that the baby can just pee out without needing the liver to process it.
The safety protocol here is interesting. No baby lotion or powder.
Essential. If you put oil or lotion on skin and then you blast it with high-intensity UV light, what happens?
You fry it.
You get a severe chemical burn. It's like using tanning oil in a solarium. The skin must be clean and dry.
And the nurses have to push fluids, right? Increased fluid intake.
Yep, the car wash effect.
Mm.
You've broken down the toxin with light. Now you need to flush it out through the urine.
Finally, let's look at the armor, the vaccines and shots. The source lists two main players here, BCG and vitamin K.
Let's distinguish them. Vitamin K isn't actually a vaccine, it's a supplement, but a critical one.
Right. Konakian is the brand name listed. The document says it's for hemorrhagic disease, spontaneous bleeding.
Babies are born with the vitamin K deficiency. We get vitamin K from our gut bacteria, but a newborn's gut is sterile. It hasn't started manufacturing it yet.
And without vitamin K.
The blood coagulation cascade doesn't work. They can't clot.
So a small bump could be a huge problem.
Correct. You could have a baby bump their head slightly during birth and end up with a catastrophic brain bleed because the bleeding just won't stop.
The protocol lists oral drops for healthy babies, 2 milligrams at birth, then weekly. But look at the preemie protocol. Babies under 1,500 grams get an injection within 6 hours. Why the needle for the tiny ones?
Because digestion is unreliable in preemies, you can't trust their stomach to absorb the drops, and they have even less vitamin K stored than full-term babies. The injection guarantees the clotting factor is in the blood immediately. You don't take chances with bleeding in preemies.
And then there's BCG. This is the tuberculosis shot.
Intradermal injection. Left shoulder. Always the left shoulder.
Why the specific location?
Yeah.
The document is very insistent on left deltoid.
It's for global standardization. The BCG vaccine leaves a small scar. So if a doctor anywhere in the world sees a scar on the left deltoid of a child, they know instantly this child is vaccinated against TB.
It's a universal medical tattoo.
Exactly.
It notes that it's photosensitive too. The nurse has to hide the vial from light.
Light kills the bacteria in the vaccine. It's a live attenuated vaccine. If you leave it on the counter in the sun, it just becomes useless water.
So when you step back and look at this entire flight manual, the heating calculations, the plumbing checks, the fuel mix analysis with the metabolic screen, the armor plating.
It strips away the romance, doesn't it?
It does, but it replaces it with something else. I mean, competence. I see a newborn now, and I don't just see a miracle of life. I see a biological machine that is dangerously close to stalling.
That's the reality. We tend to think of nature as perfect, but nature is messy and it's error-prone. This checklist is humanity saying, we aren't going to let nature roll the dice on this kid. We are going to force the systems to work.
The most striking part for me remains that metabolic screen. The idea that a distinct smell or a missing enzyme is a signal we've learned to decode.
We are listening to the body before it has a voice. The body is screaming that it's in trouble through a musty smell or a yellow skin tone or a floppiness, and these protocols are the translation guide.
And that's the takeaway. The duties at the newborn ward isn't just a list of chores for the nurses. It's a translation guide for a language we barely understand.
And decoding it properly saves a life every single day.
Thanks for walking us through the manual. It definitely changes how I'll look at a maternity ward next time.
My pleasure.
And to our listener, next time you see that heel prick or the blue light, remember what's actually happening. It's mission control ensuring the launch is a success. We'll see you in the next deep dive.